In case you missed them, we've done a few best bang for the buck roundups for the super budget conscious lately, and today, that dollar menu gravy train keeps on flowing, baby. You've got your cheap gaming peripherals all ready, which means now it's time to start building your cheap gaming PC. So we teamed up with Newegg to test 7 of the best rated cases on their site for under $35 before sale or rebate pricing. Zotac's Magnus EN1070 mini gaming PC comes VR and AAA game ready. Check it out now at the link below. We'll be judging the cases in order of their popularity on Newegg.com based on 3 main metrics. 1. Compatibility. How much can we comfortably stuff inside? Are there any component size limitations to take into account? 2. Performance. Does the case have airflow issues? How many fans can you mount? Can you mount a radiator? And 3. Injury factor. Are there any sharp edges?
I've gotten sliced open.
Is it awkwardly top heavy? Oh, and actually, for a 10% bonus, extras and aesthetics. These aren't necessities at this kind of a price, but they're certainly nice to have. So first up is the Micro ATX Zalman X310BK. It's the most popular case in our roundup, and it's certainly the cheapest at just $23, but that may be its only selling point. It's pretty sharp looking. It includes a USB 3 port. It's sturdy enough and it's extremely lightweight, but installing anything but a mini-sized graphics card is a carnival of frustration and sadness. And oh yeah, there's this thing. The screw retaining it is on the inside and it just swings out of place to install a card. Also, while the box claims that it has 5¼ bays, they're MIA, but the rails are there, making usable space so tight that it's almost impossible to mount the power supply, and cable management was even worse. The cables just kind of hang out at the bottom of the case, and there's no top or side ventilation. Thermal performance is utter balls. There's nowhere for the heat or even air to go. Not recommended. We'd actually prefer a milk crate off eBay and some zip ties instead. Next up is the full ATX Logicus CS350BK, which is both solidly built and thoughtfully laid out for a design from 2003. To its credit, it comes with a power supply, but the claim that it can handle 330 watts of total continuous load is probably bullshit. This thing won't be powering anything north of a GTX 1050 Ti, and even for that, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, the case's rolled edges help with preventing injury, but they aren't totally pinched off, and there's also these break-off PCI slot covers and a rear I/O shield to contend with. Otherwise, there is plenty of space in here, which is good, but there's nowhere to throw cables, so managing them is a chore. The aesthetics of the case, other than the glossy plastic, are fairly inoffensive, so that also is good. But with only a single intake fan for cooling, this case pulled off some of the worst thermals in this group. And that is saying a lot. Not recommended. Our third most popular case is the Micro ATX Zalman T3. It's a little cramped to work in, but it's also the first in our roundup so far with a semi-reasonable modern layout. The edges are pretty smooth, and the overall fit and finish is okay. The reset button's mushy, and this is starting to look like a pattern here actually. There is only one USB 3 port on the front panel again, rather than the 2 supported by the motherboard header. I mean, I guess copper prices are going up, but geez, you guys. Building in it though was mostly painless. The hard drives can only be accessed by removing the front panel for some reason, but the 2.5-inch SSD mounts are easily accessible, and there's actually quite a nice amount of cable management room behind the back panel. There's no included radiator mount, but up top you will actually find cutouts for use with an external radiator, an old feature that dates the core design here a little bit. It's a touch gamery looking, but overall this case has pretty excellent thermals, mesh-covered fan mounts, and clean cable management. Recommended. On to the Compucase Voyager. Where is the Voyager going? Somewhere far away, I hope. This is a MIDI computer case that I would rate a meh-D out of 10 on its looks alone. The front panel is adorned with brightly colored headphone and mic jacks straight out of 2005. The power button kind of looks like a cigarette lighter. And when your PC freezes, you can call Team Rocket with this button right here. Inside isn't much to write home about either. It's very early 2000s style with a top-mounted power supply, taste the rainbow style front panel cables, and very little room for cable management to hide them. There aren't really any sharp edges, but with these breakaway PCI slot covers and its thin metal construction, you'll be creating your own soon enough. Drive bays line the entire front of the chassis, which means that you will need a Dremel for a large high-performance graphics card. Not that you should be putting any decent gear in here anyway. Our CPU got super toasty without a fresh supply of cool air. Not recommended. In the number 5 spot is the ATX SK3, you know what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm calling this one the disappointment. Not only does it look like a 2005 piece of steel junk, it's got so many sharp edges that I had to dish out hazard pay to the unlucky sod who built the system in it. And anyway, there is nowhere for cables to hide, so have fun with that. The PCI slot covers are tear off without a tab to wedge a screwdriver into, so you'll be using your hands. And while there's a 120mm fan mount in the front of the case and an 80/92 mount in the rear, both of them are unoccupied by default. So out of the box, the power supply acts as the main exhaust. This thing's an oven, not recommended. Wow, most of these suck so far. Next up is the DIY PC JAX 12BK, which, actually doesn't look too bad. It's got a nice, clean aesthetic, as long as you're into pandas, a single USB 3 port on the front panel with a twin USB 2.0 to boot, and on the inside, it's even got a shroud to hide the power supply and 3.5-inch bays, and you can see them through a nice wide acrylic window. The full ATX layout is as open as you could want, with SSD mounts to the right of the motherboard, and I mean, really, all we're missing here is a radiator mount and some topside ventilation, both of which can be remedied with a Dremel and some time. The construction is sturdy though, with rolled and smoothed edges throughout, and we've also got a huge area in the rear for hiding all of the junk in the trunk. It's not an ideal config. The breakaway slot covers are a good example of this, as is the minimal clearance above the motherboard, but it is leagues better than everything else we've seen so far. And, perhaps unsurprisingly then, its thermal performance is pretty good too, with 120mm fans on the front and rear complementing its wide open interior. Highly recommended. Finally, we've got the Cougar. The Cougar MG110, another micro ATX case. We've got single USB 3 and USB 2 ports on the front, and on the rear we've got those blasted breakaway PCI brackets. On the interior though, we've got smooth edges all around, and it looks like that 5.25-inch bay is toolless too, with a nice little handle labeled gaming. We've got a 120mm case fan pre-installed on the rear, and we even get space on this one for a 2x120mm radiator on the top if you remove the, yes, removable optical drive mount. There's also a removable 3.5-inch hard drive tray and a decently sized area in the rear panel for cable management, complete with management points and 2.5-inch SSD mounts. Thermal performance was actually stellar too, owing to the clean interior and decent placement of the exhaust fan and copious ventilation holes. Recommended again. So, overall then, what we learned today is that the one with the most votes might not actually be the best choice in all cases. The Cougar MG110 was the best case overall and our pick for an MATX build, with the JAX 12 over here creaming the rest of the competition if you've got a full-sized ATX board. The Zalman T3 then gets an honorable mention for sucking a lot less than the rest of them, and as for the rest of them, the Sennheiser 58X from Massdrop uses Sennheiser's new 150 ohm drivers, making these headphones easier to power from devices like your cell phone than their predecessors. The emphasis of this particular set is on clean, extended bass with a smooth but clear upper range. They've got soft velour ear pads with elliptical ear cups that, I know, it's crazy. Follow the anatomy of the ear. Round on an ear. I don't know where that idea ever came from, but not with these. They come with a handy detachable cable and they're available now on Massdrop for $159.99 US with free shipping to the USA. So check it out at the link below. So thanks for watching, guys. If you disliked this video, you can hit that button. But if you liked it, hit like, get subscribed, maybe consider checking out the link to where to buy the stuff we featured. Though to be clear, I only mean this one, and then maybe this one if for whatever reason you don't like the looks of this one, in the video description. Also linked in the description is our merch store, which has cool shirts like this one, and our community forum, which you should totally join.